Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, set your stereoscopic 3D slider to future. We're predicting the last 3DS game. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. I am wearing a new deodorant.
Oh, okay.
And I
Tell me about that.
know if I like it.
What is it?
So it's a spray-on deodorant.
Okay.
Um.
Always been a roll-on man myself.
Oh, so like the ones that
No.
actually roll.
I take that back. Just like a regular bar.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
But I went to a different grocery store than the one I usually go to.
Nightmare.
Where is everything?
No one knows. You're trying to find rice, and you're like, "Where is it with the bread?" I don't know.
And they didn't have the deodorant I normally get.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh, I will try this other kind. Yeah, it's a spray-on, but like maybe I like spray-on. I don't know. I've never really tried it before.
Yeah, sure.
And I think like the experience I'm fine with, but I feel like I smell like an old man.
Interesting. Because you think it's wearing off, or just because the odor?
No, because the odor of the deodorant, even though it's like tropical mist,
Yeah.
Bahama breeze, whatever, like Arctic thunder, whatever.
Right. It's got to be at least a little bit masculine. Yeah.
Is I don't know. It just has that lingering like old person musk.
Interesting.
In my opinion.
I've been using the brand is Old Spice. I was going to say flavor. What would you call this?
Scent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is Wolfthorn is what it's
of course. The
called,
well known.
It's called Wolfthorn, but it smells like candy. And when I put it on, I think to myself, I'm going to smell like candy. And I know exactly where it is in my grocery store. Mark, before we get into the very important business today, which is we are going to predict with a pretty high degree of certainty what the last Nintendo game on the 3DS, what it's going to be. But before we get into that, there are some things that people can do to interact with us by sending us an email to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. What can they do with that email address, Mark?
Well, first, you're going to want to send us your mailing address so you can borrow Patrick's copy of Sonic Forces.
That's right. Sonic Forces on the Switch. I own it. I don't want it in my house. Right now, it is not in my house. It's in Nebraska, maybe? No, maybe it's in Washington State, and it's headed to Nebraska next. Look, this thing is crisscrossing around the country, and it could crisscross right into your front door if you send us your mailing address to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com.
And while you're doing that, go ahead and let us know your pick for best Zelda NPC of all time.
Now, there are probably hundreds of Zelda NPCs.
At least.
Linnebeck, remember him?
No.
From, what is the sequel to Wind Waker? Yes, Phantom Hourglass is the name of that game. He's like the pirate guy who introduces you to the boat.
Oh, okay.
So what about him?
He could be somebody's favorite.
He could be somebody's favorite.
Well, if he is, you better let us know by September 13th. Nay, a few days before.
That's right. Probably the 10th is when we will record that. And this is one of those things where we are going to determine who the best is definitively. And if you don't remind us about your favorites, we are going to forget them.
There are just too many.
Mark and I are dumb. We can't necessarily agree on whether or not Pokemon is an RPG. So, I mean, you have to represent yourself in this.
Yeah, do yourself a favor.
That's right.
And represent yourself, because otherwise you're just going to have to listen to these two knuckleheads.
That's right.
Go on about, I don't know.
Who knows? Linnebeck, a character Mark doesn't even remember.
Oh, what a nightmare.
And also, if you're going to pick one, like, seafaring character from
Phantom Hourglass?
Or
like the Wind Waker universe.
The Wind Waker extended universe. You go with the King of Red Lions.
Absolutely.
All right, Mark, let's get into the topic at hand and determine what the last 3DS game will be. Now, this conversation topic is based on the sort of long-held belief that I've had that we will see another game in the Majora's Mask / Ocarina of Time engine that's just a new Zelda game that looks like those games.
And on top of that, another long-held belief
yes,
that Nintendo is gearing up to announce like one more big Nintendo 3DS title
yes,
that, will be exclusive to the system,
mm-hmm.
that everybody is going to go, I wish that was on Switch.
That's right.
Like a new, 3D Zelda game.
Yes, like a new must-play 3D Zelda game. There, it's hard to believe that Samus Returns came out like almost a year ago at this point, and even then we were saying, I don't want to play games on my 3DS anymore.
Yeah, the Switch had been out for a mere few months.
Oh, yes, and we were all like hardcore converts to it, that we were like, no, I don't want to play a game on any other platform.
I've actually pulled back on this throttle a little bit. For a while, I was a staunch, put everything on Switch. Now I'm like, it's
who
good that
cares?
there's stuff on 3DS.
I've already got the 3DS. I mean, this WarioWare Gold has been a great test for the, or not even a test, but like a demonstration that like, yeah, you know what? I do kind of want to play this on just the handheld. I don't get anything out of putting that on the TV.
And there's something a little bit more convenient playing the 3DS. Like I have one that closes like a clamshell, and I could just like toss it across the room. Oh my god!
Yes, I am so careless and reckless with my 3DS. Anything happens to it, and I'm like, you're fine.
Yeah, not like my Switch, where if I don't like gently put it into the dock, into the cradle,
and sing it to sleep.
Yeah, then I feel like I'm gonna scratch it or something.
So before we get into what we think that game might be, the game that draws us all back to the 3DS, when do you think the last like big Nintendo 3DS game? When do you think that's going to come out? With a little bit of context,
right?
Of Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, the remake, and Persona Q2 are two games coming out on the 3DS that are slated for 2019. So there
in the West,
I assume. Yes.
Yeah.
So there are at least two games already that we know of coming out in 2019.
And is Luigi's Mansion coming out this year or next year?
This year.
Oh, okay. So yeah, with that knowledge, I'm going to say that holiday 2019.
You think holiday 2019 is the end of it?
Yeah.
I think we will see something as late as summer 2020.
My heart.
Yes, I know.
The Switch will be 3 years old at that point.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Like, Nintendo has been pretty good about, as far as the handhelds are concerned, abandoning one as soon as like the next one comes out. If you look at Nintendo releases on the DS, they dry up almost completely in like the 2 months leading up to the 3DS. And, that makes perfect sense. But like, that's because there's an obvious successor at like a similar price point, like higher, but not like outrageously so.
Yeah, what you would expect for like a new handheld.
Yes,
yeah.
And Nintendo doesn't have that, at least that we know of at this point. And I don't really see them replacing the 3DS with another thing like it.
And I don't really see the Switch dropping that dramatically in price by the time that, like 2020.
And even if it does drop in price, it's still the way that the thing like looks and feels. It feels like a piece of high-end electronics.
Yeah,
you're
just
not
like
we
were talking about.
Yeah, that you're not going to want to like throw into your bag or whatever. And so I sort of think that we're going to see even more support for this thing than we're even imagining right now. When I say 2020 and you exclaim about your heart, it may keep going longer than that. Like, if there's no reason for them to put out a successor to the 3DS, they just might not and just ride it out forever.
Could you imagine if the 3DS has like a Pokemon like revival?
Oh my god!
Like something game comes
new,
out that just like hits like lightning.
Yes. Will it be one of these games that we're about to pitch to you?
Probably.
It's got to be. So I have 5 suggestions. You've got a handful as well. I'll go first because I think I have more. My first prediction is a re-release of Star Fox Zero / Star Fox Guard on 3DS. So Star Fox Zero, a Wii U game that found little critical and commercial success.
I'm always shocked at how recently that game was released.
So recently. so recently.
It's not even 2 years old.
No, it's not. And this is something that always blows our minds, is that in the last 2 years, 3 Star Fox games were released: Star Fox Zero, Star Fox 2, and Star Fox Guard. But neither of these games really got a maybe Zero got a fair shake because the game actually is a little bit of a mess as far as how it's controlled. But both it and Guard really rely on like a 2-screen experience, and there's no way and kind of no reason to port it over to Switch. I think it would make sense for that to be on 3DS.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I feel like it is a bold prediction for like the last final game.
Yes.
As like a filler title.
Mhm.
I think I completely agree. As like the title that makes us all go, boy, I wish this was on Switch. Maybe a little less.
Sure. I mean, it is worth pointing out that is the role it played on the Wii U of like, I guess it was a sort of filler in that we just need to make it until the Switch comes out. But it's basically the final breaths of that system, unless you want to count Breath of the Wild as the actual final breath. But like, yeah, it's always, its legacy right now is as a late in generation game, and I think it could come back to be a late in life game.
I feel like Guard especially could be
Yes.
like a 3DS eShop title.
Yeah, and probably should have been from the get-go.
Also true.
Just a quick little eShop title. And Guard is fun and neat. It's a little bit of a like tower defense sort of game where you are monitoring security cameras on one screen and like a map on the other. And yeah, having those 2 screens, right there on the 3DS, we're running out of time for that sort of game to have a home on Nintendo stuff. Because like the two screen seemed like it was going to be the Nintendo identity, and just now it's not anymore. The end.
So I'm dreaming big for mine.
White Christmas, you say?
And my first one is a new Star Tropics game
Wow.
on the Nintendo 3DS.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, look, you're speechless. I get it.
I'm so excited.
Look, a Star Tropics game has been wished for, rumored in the sense that like people just make things up because they want to believe
right.
that a new Star Tropics is coming. And even though I do not think that obviously retro games or retro throwback games have found a huge home on the Switch, and I would personally love to see, like one of those Link Between Worlds type Zelda games on Switch.
Yeah.
I still think that the 3DS is a good home for like a throwback title like Star Tropics, because I wouldn't want this to be like a Metroid Prime reimagining of Star Tropics.
Sure, you want Star Tropics 3.
Yeah, I want Star Tropics 3.
Return of Mike.
I want it to be very retro feeling.
Yes. Obviously I'm a big fan of the Star Tropics series. So in any one of these exercises where we are pitching imaginary games at each other, I will champion a Star Tropics. I like also that, just like Star Fox Zero being a sort of late in generation game, the Star Tropics 2 Zoda's Revenge was the second to last game put out on the NES. It and Wario's Woods were the last two. So like I like that sort of continuing lineage of like, we need one more thing. Let's ride off into the sunset with this one last thing.
And obviously, you couldn't make 3D, like the actual like 3D aspect of it, a huge like integral gaming component, because you sell a lot of 2DSs, or not a ton of people even necessarily play in 3D on their 3DSs. But I do think you could do like a Super Mario 3D Land type thing where the game is enhanced, or even A Link Between Worlds where like the game is enhanced if you're playing it in 3 dimensions. Like the perspective of Star Tropics, I think you could potentially do something interesting that we haven't seen before with 3D there.
Yeah, I think that, and especially with like the way a lot of Star Tropics is just like if you could just get a different perspective on something, you'd be able to see that there's like a cave there that you can go through, or like that tile is going to disappear as soon as you step on it. And if some of that were cued by the 3D, I think that, like Super Mario 3D Land, which I think you mentioned, made some use of that, and I think Star Tropics could just run with it.
I also think, like, right now we're in this perfect, like, 30-year nostalgia cycle where this idea of we're just doing this, like, loose rip-off of everything Americana could be very funny to come back to.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think that we are past due for a Star Tropics revival, because it's just weird and dumb and specific enough to just, like, someone should just go wild with that game and, like, just make a new one. My next pitch for last 3DS game is a new game in the Remix series. So NES Remix. So I can't tell if this is NES Remix Volume 3. I can't tell if it's Super NES Remix or even like a Game Boy / Game Boy Advance Remix. But another experience where it is taking little slices from pre-existing much loved games and just repackaging them into like little challenges, just to keep that sort of, I mean, it's partially inspired by playing WarioWare now, that like, man, I love just being overstimulated in 3-second increments by my 3DS.
And not just that, but like in WarioWare there are those sections that are specifically like old Nintendo games.
Yeah, totally.
And so like seeing those come at you from like tons of different franchises in really short bursts is super fun. I've always felt like the fact that they didn't follow up the NES remix titles with like an SNES remix, a Nintendo 64 remix, like it seems like a missed opportunity. Like I think it would be just as much, if not more fun to, maybe you're not as familiar with the N64 game, so maybe that like makes it a little tougher to do.
That was one of the secret best things about NES Remix in the first place, is that like it sort of subtly taught you how to play a lot of these games. So like it would just put you in, at the end of a Zelda dungeon and it's like fight Ganon, and you had like all the equipment, whatever, in order to do it, and you just had to like figure it out, so that, a couple years later when you get an NES Classic and you are playing through Zelda again, you're like, oh yeah, I just fought Ganon.
And maybe this is actually a better way to experience some of those not so great N64 titles.
Totally.
Where you're like, we're just gonna like see the end of Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah, which in and of itself is a 45-minute long fight where you have to use all 5 characters. It's a nightmare.
Okay, so maybe that's a bad example.
That's
maybe
that
game should never be referenced ever again.
But yeah, I think the time is right for a remix game, and I don't necessarily. I always thought it was weird that they came to Wii U first, because it feels more like a handheld experience. And maybe that is just because it's rooted in sort of like retro gaming, or what. Maybe it's the micro bits of gameplay. But it doesn't feel totally right for Switch. And they're also never multiplayer experiences either, which seems to be like such a cornerstone of what the Switch experience is. But yeah, I want that new remix game.
Well, you know what I would love to see, and I think would like blow people's minds?
Let's blow some minds!
And depending on when Metroid Prime 4 comes out, would be perfectly timed to see the triumphant return of Metroid Prime Hunters for the 3DS.
Man. Oh, this is crazy, Mark. This is crazy.
This was a game that just like talking about crazy, it was nuts that they ever thought they were going to pull this off on the DS.
So they sort of did, and the game actually had online death matches.
Yeah, absolutely nuts.
Man.
But, everybody made fun of it, but, the control scheme was just... it was just out of control.
It was a bummer, because, you had to use a stylus, and
it came with, the demo had that...
Yeah, had that little, thumb thing that you put on the touchscreen.
Uh-huh. It just wasn't... It just wasn't fully baked. It was never going to be super successful on the DS, because the DS just wasn't the system for something like that.
Now, let me ask you this. Has Metroid Prime Federation Forces, has that sort of salted the earth for first-person Metroid games on the 3DS.
So
you don't think so?
No. Okay. So yeah, people really hate or are like angry about the existence of Federation forces.
Yeah.
But again, I think we are far enough away from Hunters that people have like a weird nostalgia for the idea of it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like
yes,
I don't think enough
that.
people like played it or loved it to like have nostalgia for the game itself. But I think we all remember like when the 3DS was announced and a demo was packed in with every original 3DS. And, like, it was such, like, a weird and interesting thing that you're like, is this going to work? And the answer was, like, not really.
But, like, sorta.
But if we came back and we're like, yeah, we, like, built one for the ground up for the 3DS, a lot of 3DSs now have two,
the new 3DSs have, like, the nub that you could use as, like, a second control stick, at least for, like, aiming.
And if you, like, figured out a way to also have a control with like the stylus. I don't know how you do it, but I think
that's for better minds than ours.
Exactly. But what a way for the 3DS to go out.
That would be an insane way. Here's the one thing that I would want to add to it. Can we also get a sequel to Metroid Prime Pinball packed in with it?
100%.
Okay, thank you.
100. It's like a Star Fox Zero Guard type package.
Perfect. Not Federation Forces. Get that out of here. Hunters 2 / Pinball 2.
Yep.
Okay, great. For my next pitch, we've been seeing a lot of remakes of the Mario and Luigi games. So I got to thinking, it's about time they make a new one of these. Here's the pitch. Wario and Waluigi. That's it. They get their own Mario and Luigi style role-playing game that's where you are playing as Wario and Waluigi. It has a series like trademark humor in it, but with more farts and garlic breath. And that's it. It's just like the king of silly. That's all of it.
You know what we haven't seen? I love this idea.
Mm-hmm.
And as the villain, what I'll pitch is we've never seen like the Bowser equivalent.
We've never seen Wowzer.
We've never seen Wowzer. I mean, that is a pun that is just...
That's perfect.
It's gold.
And we weren't even working hard on that one. It just came out of my mouth.
Effortless genius.
So, Wario and Waluigi fighting Wowzer.
It's good. It's real good.
And, I mean, why else are they remaking 2 of these games at, like, this point in the system's life cycle?
Yeah, I mean, sure. It's seemingly easy.
Seemingly. They're doing a lot of work on these things though. Like all of the sprite work is just completely redone. So like I gotta imagine that's like half of making a Mario and Luigi game.
Right. No, it does actually seem baffling that this for whatever reason is like the series that they've decided they're going to do a lot of remakes of late in the 3DS's life. So yeah, it would be cool to see that sort of for real lack of a better term, like pay off.
Yes.
With like a new kind of like wacky entry.
Well, and also like when's the last time we saw a new Mario and Luigi game? It was the one that was also a crossover with Paper Mario.
Was it Paper Mario or was it? I genuinely can't remember.
Yeah, me neither. So it's been a little bit. The series is due. So let's see it. Gimme.
All right. So my initial thought for this one was like, oh, what about an idol game where you're playing as, like the idols from Splatoon 2?
Oh, that's interesting.
And I was like, yeah, like it's interesting, but then I came up with like a way better idea.
Let's hear it.
It's a dating sim for the Mario characters.
Okay.
All right. So you are
Mm-hmm.
a new student at a high school. It's a normal high school. It's not in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Not Mushroom Kingdom High.
No.
Okay.
The other, like some of the other classmates in this high school, Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, Daisy,
oh my god,
Bowser,
oh my god,
Toadette.
And they were all at your regular
Birdo.
high school.
Yeah. Totally normal high school. It's
Wart,
not weird that they're
a
there.
shy guy.
Yep. Dry Bones.
Right. A Goomba. A
Boo.
Thwomp.
King Boo. It's not weird. It's Chain Chomp. It's not weird that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's like, what is this Chain Chomp doing in this school? No. they're like, Chain Chomp, are you going to come to geometry or what's going on?
And he goes, rawr, rawr, rawr.
And everybody's like, everybody understands him.
Right.
Right? And you decide which one you want to romance. And while you're going to class, obviously, because you have to get good grades.
Of course.
If you want to get into a good school.
I recently played Monster Prom. Have you ever played Monster Prom?
No, but did we talk about it briefly on this show?
We may
or
have talked
did
about
we,
it briefly.
Yeah.
It's very well written, just a high school dating sim where everyone is monsters. If what you're pitching right now is just that, but with Mario characters,
I mean, basically.
I'm there. I'm there for it.
You know, we have never seen Nintendo do a dating sim.
Yeah, outside of Fire Emblem. Conversely, I do not want to see a Fire Emblem dating sim. I feel like that's too far.
Yeah, it's just like it's a little too obvious.
Yeah. This is a good game. I like that the core of it is silly. Like I like a dating sim that really stretches. Like I don't want to romance attractive girls. I don't want that. Boo and boring.
I could do that in real life.
I could do that in real life. But that's because I'm smooth. I want to try to romance Mario or a Yoshi.
Or Yoshi. Or like Bowser. For some reason, I love the idea of trying to
he's a classic
Bowser
daddy.
to be my boyfriend.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm there for it. Something that when you started this pitch, leads into my next one. So you said the Splatoon idols, that it would be cool to do like an idol game where you're playing as Pearl or Marina. I think some kind of Splatoon spin-off.
I was thinking about this as well. Like my initial thought, I'll just piggyback on yours, and then you can actually explain the good one, is just like a 2D platformer.
Okay, yeah.
Like almost, I hate to use the term, but like a Metroidvania type, like exploration-based platformer.
Right, and I mean, we sort of already have precedent for that in the terms of, hey, what's going on, Pikmin? Whatever the name of that game is. Yo, Pikmin, what up? That it took what was like a real-time strategy game and turns it into a 2D platformer with like puzzle elements. What I would want to do with Splatoon is turn it into either a turn-based or real-time strategy game.
Oh, awesome!
Especially with like the touch controls of the 3DS, where you can like, okay, now paint your path, and then like your Inklings will be able to like swim through it or whatever. I think there's just endless potential there, and you could do like the sort of standard overhead view like that, or if you want to make it a little bit more like XCOM-y, so it's got like hints of Mario plus Rabbids or Codename Steam. Like there are so many examples of like Nintendo games already doing what I'm imagining, but in the Splatoon universe, which is so cool.
Yeah,
but has yet to appear on a 3DS.
Yeah, the Splatoon universe is like really fun and interesting. I feel like it's the perfect amount of like you get it, but it's also like mysterious.
Yes.
But you don't want to know the answer. Like, I don't really care about the specific mechanics of the Splatoon 2 universe.
Right.
I just like
I want to exist in it.
I like the aesthetics of it. I like
the aesthetics of it are so cool. Yeah. That's another thing. I want to be able to play Splatoon music on my phone.
Just make it happen.
Just make it happen. All right. Here's my final pitch, and I believe that this is probably the least likely of the things that I've pitched so far. And keep in mind, I pitched a Wario and Waluigi role-playing game, but is the thing that I would be most excited about. Virtual Boy All-Stars. A collection of all of the Virtual Boy games that Nintendo published on the 3DS together.
This is such a good idea, because when are we ever going to be able to do it again? If like the 3D goes away?
Yeah, never. I mean, that's what a lot of what we're like kind of tapping into here is like, we're afraid of losing the second screen. We're afraid of losing 3D. Let's utilize it before it's gone forever. That's what's behind Star Tropics. That's what's behind the Splatoon thing that we were just talking about. That's what's behind this. A lot of those games aren't super well loved. But I just made like a quick list of like games that would have to be in this collection: Virtual Boy Wario Land, Mario Clash, Nestor's Funky Bowling, Mario's Tennis, Tellero Boxer, 3D Tetris, Galactic Pinball, all games that are totally worth actually playing.
Yeah, I mean, you basically just listed off a better lineup than the NES Classic.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, Mario Clash is, in my mind, the best way to play a Mario Bros-esque game, like the original Mario Brothers. It's got the two different planes that like you move between, and I mean, it might be a little bit of an eyesore to see all of this stuff in like the red and black.
But I don't think you would have to do that. Like, I think if you included all of those games,
Uh-huh.
put them on in one package,
Yeah.
and like updated them so like they're like colorized. You
Yeah,
know, they
sure.
have like new sprites. I think that is a no. And then you can toggle between like classic mode with the red,
Yeah.
you know, and like the new updated graphics. Like, I think this would be amazing.
Yeah, and I think especially like use that All-Stars branding of like, because that's obviously what they did with the original set of Mario games, where they were like, oh, these games are obviously amazing, we need to clean them up for modern sensibilities, like just do the same here. And I realize that this is probably such a a stretch, because like we just don't see Nintendo celebrating Virtual Boy.
Yeah, like, is the Virtual Boy even a trophy in Smash Brothers?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, like they do not talk about Virtual Boy at all.
There is a Virtual Boy micro game in WarioWare Gold, and I'm excited every time it pops up. I get so excited every time it pops up. So like, you know, come on, the weird old timers like us that are never gonna let this stupid system go. Just a collection of, and you know, I think I listed like 8 games maybe. It doesn't need to be exhaustive, but like let's just get some of the good games on this thing out there, and then you're effectively also preserving like a huge piece of Nintendo history forever.
Oh man, the thought had not even entered my mind, and now that you've put it there, it's like I want that to happen so bad.
Yeah, it's all that you want and all that you need. Mark, before we get out of this, I realized that we came up with, now I guess, 9 amazing 3DS games that all have to be the very last one that that Nintendo puts out on this platform. But I would love to know what our listeners think. What sort of game they expect to be Nintendo's swan song on the 3DS. Do any of ours make sense to you? That's fine. I would be interested in hearing that. What I want are your pitches. I want to know what game you think would be and should be Nintendo's last gasp for air on the 3DS. So you can email those to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. All right, Mark, let's close this out. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you like this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff on Apple Podcasts. And if you could share the episode wherever you share stuff, that would be great too. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell. And the show is at Nincart Society. We're also on Facebook, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we write about comic books and stuff on just comic books really on reconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more 8-Bit Betty music on 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Amanda Salvatore.
And I'm Jackie Ray Arbel, and we are the hosts of
Guilty Pleasure, the podcast that celebrates, elaborates, and experiences our odd interests.
We talk with comedians, writers, and artists about their chosen guilty pleasure, like LARPing, Burning Man, Keanu Reeves, Allen Iverson, television shows, 60s and 70s rock and roll, and the list basically goes on and on and on.
If you'd like to check us out, we have a new episode every single Monday.
Delivered to you from Campfire Media. Find us on iTunes or anywhere that you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening.
Hey, thanks for listening.
Campfire.